The station where our veterans' voices are heard, MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to Freedom Chat, where real Americans speak their minds. And no topic is off limits. No scripts, no judgment, just honest conversation. Raw, unfiltered, and free. If you're ready to challenge the narrative and celebrate true freedom, you're in the right place. This is Freedom Chat.
All right. Good morning. Okay, right off the bat, Dennis had something to do at work, so he will not be joining us. It's going to be pretty much anybody who wants to join, plus me, plus my mom. My mom's name is Phyllis. So this will be a first of just the two of us working together. When we're done, I'm getting back into my service dress whites. I'm coming down to pick up my mom, and then we are going to Elizabeth, not Kiowa. Kiowa, Colorado does not have a Veterans Memorial, so I'm going to start in Elizabeth. We'll work our way down there. We'll finish up the day in Littleton. Probably be done right around, I don't know. These things that I do, a lot of times I can't put a timeline on them, so I'm not willing to do that. Probably be done right around 2 or 3, if you include the drive time. So I mean, I'm going to be picking you up, Mom, at about 12:30, 12:45, and it's going to take us at least 45 minutes to an hour to get to Elizabeth. So, that about right?
I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started. I had a plan all week to talk about this transgender shooter, Robert, whatever the hell his last name is. That's literally how very it's hard to take him serious, and the reason it's hard to take him serious is because a lot of people don't know this, or they're not paying attention, or they're not educated, or they're just not willing to educate themselves. But in his letter to his family, he talked about how he regretted being brainwashed, and he regretted brainwashing himself. But we are gonna hit that because we need to hit not the transgenderism, the gender dysphoria, which is what these people have actually. And some of them, I guarantee you, don't even have that. Some of them are being manipulated by medical and psychological professionals, and they're creating environments because they're putting them on these quote unquote psychological antidepressant drugs, which are having just devastating effects. The mainstream media, the Democrat Party, they don't want to tell you what the last 8 shooters were. I think it was the last 8, but we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, I want to talk about Maxine Waters. Mom, I don't know about you, but the audacity of that woman to even sniff at invoking the 25th Amendment on President Trump is just, it's stunning. For those of you not aware of what this woman is trying to do, is she's basically making the assertion that President Trump is not fit to serve in office. Personal feelings aside, what a bunch of crap. They basically covered for a president who literally should have had the 25th Amendment invoked on him within what, Mom? 6 months?
Oh, yeah. Well, they should have never let him run to begin with.
Right.
He was already hiding, all that hiding in the basement before the election was
Right.
nothing more than hiding his um, disability that was showing up.
Yeah. It just I mean, the biggest takeaway from everything I've experienced since I started doing my chats all the way back in, what was it, Mom? I started really getting into doing this stuff around May of 2020,
Yeah, something like that.
just before they started making us wear freaking face diapers everywhere. Um, and then it really ramped up in 2021 when a president of the United States literally singled out half of the population. But to hear it from these useful idiots in the world, uh, he this president, the president we have, is the single most divisive based on race and religion and sexuality and all this. And I don't know about anybody else, but the current director of HUD is a black man. His financial chief is gay. Um, it's just mind blowing to me that people are still calling the current president an embarrassment. I have coworkers that call him an embarrassment. It still slays me that you know um, he's doing his level best to make the world a better place, let alone this country, and he's being vilified for it. I know that we're kind of touching on a lot of little things here, but let's talk about one of the big ones. In Chicago, Illinois, although President Trump did give the governor of Illinois some good advice to lose some weight and get in shape, he did do that. That was pretty awesome. It shows he cares. It's also kind of funny because why the hell not? Set a standard. Let's set a standard. Let's be a part of that standard, right? But the mayor of Chicago is doubling down on not wanting troops in Chicago. So, if you're the mayor of Chicago and, your average weekend is 4 deaths and double-digit wounded from gunshots, and you've got the strongest anti-gun measures in the country, damn near, and a president of the United States who is simply saying, we want to restore law and order. Well, I don't know. If you're a mayor, what do? I know what I would do if I were the mayor of Chicago, Illinois. I would ramp up the hiring of as many law enforcement officers as I could do, and I would start enforcing laws. Mom, help me out here.
You didn't stop talking. You can't. I heard or saw something else that this jerkin, that's the mayor of Chicago, says that criminals shouldn't be in jail. That's an archaic thing to do, and that's not the right thing to do. We need to stop putting criminals in prison and in jail. Well, what are you going to do with them? I don't know. He didn't say what he was going to do with them.
And
that's
of
course, you have to have police in order to put them in jail. So
right.
I guess that's the end game right there. No police.
Right, and
no criminals in jail. Gee, we have a city that's free of crime. Not really.
So what do we have? We do have a city that's free of crime, but we have a city of a lot of dead people, because the people who are going to defend themselves are going to defend themselves with guns. I mean, that goes without saying. Either that or baseball bats. But that literally goes without saying, doesn't it? It's you can't. And look, he didn't just make that claim. He claimed that arresting criminals is also racist. I mean, he literally is the epitome of a race baiting, race excusing, liberal Marxist. Let's destroy the nuclear family. Let's destroy, all the while gaslighting people who want law and order by saying we don't want to have families separated and we don't want this and we don't want that. Well, I mean, you separate his policies and their policies separated families of 4 people last weekend. And who knows what the statistics are going to say this weekend. Those families are separated. You know why? Because their family members got shot. Their family members are dead. Or, the politically correct unalived, which this is the only time you're going to hear me say unalived. Okay? I will not use the term unalived. It is dead. Dead, dead, dead. And
well,
and I'm looking at a comment from James Patrick. You're right. What Trump did was listen to the wrong people. That doesn't make him a moron. It makes him inexperienced and learning in a position of leadership. Glad you were, but don't put it on Trump, because the mandates came out of the Biden administration. The ramp up of the mandates came out of the Biden administration. And James, if you want to jump on, request to come on. I'll be happy to invite you on to push your narrative and say that. So here's the comment literally. Thanks, Trump, for the masks. He was president. I agree. He was the president at the beginning, but he was learning process. Trump 2.0 would probably fired Fauci on the spot. So you can make that comment, but you also have to acknowledge that the 4 years after that were an unmitigated disaster. Trump was not the moron. Trump was learning what needed to be done, and Trump was making mistakes. I stated this last. I think if Trump had to do it again, he would not have made the same decisions. The only criticism that I have about Trump currently is his unwillingness to admit that he made mistakes. His ego sometimes interferes with but reinforcing trust. Because until he comes out and says, Crossfire made a mistake, that has to come from him, because it was he started it.
He was given the wrong information deliberately also.
Okay. And that is acknowledged, but he had bad information and bad advice. I made bad decisions as the president. I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again. Own your crap. If we would stop pointing fingers at everybody else, we would be better off, because we would own and take responsibility for our decisions, good, better, and different. And I am not saying unequivocally that his mistakes were not pretty bad mistakes. The masks were a bad idea. The masks were completely, seriously, they had us wearing outlaw bandanas, for God's sakes, and they were calling that good. So,
And Fauci did that with no science between and all the other crap. And he admits that he did it, but he doesn't admit that it was wrong.
So back to James Patrick. I am really glad that you made that comment, but that comment is an ignorant comment, and I'm going to call you on it. Because, well, yeah, Fauci did know better. Because Fauci has how many different degrees inside and straight out were criminal. But that was that. Okay, so we are 50 seconds past. We're going to go to our real quick break. My mom already knows this is my favorite one. So here we go.
You see the Cobra?
Hey, what is this one?
Oh, this?
Uh-huh.
That's my credo. No regrets.
Mm-hmm. You have no regrets?
Dad?
No? Like not even a single letter?
No way. Not me.
Well, I love him. I think he's great.
Okay.
I think he's a real winner, Casey. If I were you, I wouldn't use protection.
Sorry, Mom. I'm really sorry. So yeah, I want to go back to the comment that James Patrick was making. James Patrick reminds me of someone who suffers from Trump derangement syndrome. Nothing that President Trump has done that is positive can be attributed to Trump, and nothing that Trump is going to do can be attributed to Trump. But anything that goes wrong is completely Trump's fault. I can't take it serious because that comment is utterly an ignorant comment. So, thank you for playing. If you want to jump back on and make another comment, it can be snarky. It won't make any difference. I'll read it to you and I'll respond accordingly. That's the game I play. Let's talk about that shooter. All right, and let's not talk about the shooter in that the shooter was evil. What the shooter did was evil. But the shooter was a creation of a psychological epidemic that is being manipulated by leftists and communists to create environments. You keep in mind that when this shooting happened, every Democrat news source didn't talk about his gender identity, didn't talk about the fact that any hormone treatments that they know of, and he didn't have anything that was no hormone blockers, none of that. But he simply changed his name to Robin because he quote unquote identified as a female. And this happened at 17, and his mother signed off on signing on to it. So we know all of these things, right? We also know that he has been brainwashed, and that he hadn't have been manipulated, and that he hadn't have done it to a large degree to himself.
And he had been obviously been manipulated for quite a long time. They don't do one session of social worker talking you into it. It's a whole series of it. And
it's not just that. They're not just manipulating the kids. And this is something that needs to be brought to bear. They're also manipulating the parents. Okay? We're telling parents, you either accept the way they're identifying themselves, sometimes ridiculously dangerous and criminal, or you're going to be seeing this person in a box, i.e., the person is going to kill themselves. Here's a news flash for you. The last, at least 7 mass shooters we're either non-binary or trans. So is it guns or is it the mental illness that represents the transsexual, trans, whatever you want to call it, ideology? And don't tell me it's an identifying thing anymore. It's not. It's an ideology unto itself. And for those people who say it's a part of the LGBTQ, don't embarrass yourself. The trans community is not a part of the gay and bisexual and lesbian community, period. Unless that person who is a cross-dresser, who has a mental affliction called gender dysphoria, is into girls and is a girl. Then that makes her gay. It makes her a gay cross-dresser. It makes her a gay, I suffer from gender dysphoria individual. Okay? I'm not playing the game anymore. My daughter has a friend who suffers from gender dysphoria. All right? I have a coworker who I will not name who suffers from gender dysphoria. I don't come from this from a position of phobia, which is an irrational fear. Let's clarify a couple of things. I don't come from a position of hatred because I don't hate these people. I actually feel sad for these people because I follow a person, and Mom knows this, that suffers from gender dysphoria named Blair White. But Blair White is very rational and understands the irrationality of what Blair White is contending with. So anybody out there that wants to make comments about how evil and how bad I am, explain to me why. Mom, talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old.
Well, here's my personal opinion, which will probably upset anybody that hears. You are either gay or you're not. You're either lesbian or you're not. And
Right.
any of the rest of this crap is just different ways of saying it. There are people that like to swing both ways. That's what they used to call it back in the old days, people. Swing
Right.
both ways. Gee,
Right.
what a concept, and nobody give a damn.
Nobody did.
Because it wasn't shoved in your face constantly.
Right. And
And
honestly,
you could be gay and you could be lesbian and you could be whatever as long as you didn't shove it in somebody's face.
and
Just like a guy walking up to a girl in a bar and shoving himself and not taking no for an answer
and
is the same
in all
thing.
in all honesty, nobody would give a crap today either. I mean, it wouldn't. It's a non-issue unless people make it an issue. And because people have made it an issue, and because people are trying to attach feelings to that issue, it becomes an even bigger issue because somewhere society has said feelings matter. Well, this is my opinion about feelings. Having been bullied in grade school and in middle school and in high school, and having had my feelings hurt a lot during that time frame, feelings don't matter. How you deal with your feelings, how you respond to your feelings, that's what matters. That's what maturity does for you. Well, you can't be mature when you have everybody kowtowing to every little thing that you perceive is reality. Now, here it is right here. This is coming from the Western Journal. Since 2020. So we're talking 5 years, all right? Since 2020, 40% of successful and would-be school shooters were trans or suspected trans or gender fluid, whatever the frick you want to call that. So is it the guns? No, it's not the guns. It's mental illness that goes unchecked, or even worse, misdiagnosed, or even worse, intentionally diagnosed to follow an agenda or to meet an agenda. Now that's going to make people, Mom, I know you understand that. It's going to make people mad. We got 39 people that are watching us currently, and I'm sure I've just pissed off portion of them. I hope I have, and I would love for them to jump on. Don't be afraid to ask to come on, because you will be more than welcome to join. The rules are simple. The rules are very simple. Don't insult. Don't call names. If you have a fact, you need to make sure you produce an unbiased resource. The Western Journal is actually a very unbiased resource. I have seen a lot of their articles that are very critical of the right-leaning people. But the fact of the matter is that gender dysphoria it's already confusing, and they target. Here's the thing: they target these people that are already weakened mentally and emotionally. And now I'm going to kind of throw this out. Mom, I don't like middle schoolers. Do you know why I don't like middle schoolers? I don't like middle schoolers because they have an overabundance of hormones and a total lack of brain power. Well, when you have a situation where a person has a total overabundance of hormones, and they don't have the brain capacity to cope with those hormones, which is why middle school is the craziest time frame through the development of adolescents and children.
Yeah, I wanted to
It takes much to push them through.
being your mother and having another son beside you.
So
I really wanted to kill you both most of the time.
So you know that, right, and you know that I'm right about this because you went through it.
Yeah.
Well, as a school bus driver, I'm telling you, this is what I don't like, because they're in that developmental stage where I would just rather not deal with them.
Middle schoolers are the hardest age group to deal with.
But let's talk about also what the left and I'm no longer going to say left media and Democrats. I'm just going to call them the left because that's what they are. The left.
No, call them communists because that's what they are.
That's what I call leftists, Mom. I throw them all in the same category. But let's talk about what they reported. Jen Psaki didn't talk about the fact that this kid was mentally in trouble, because he was. Didn't talk, went straight to the freaking guns. I mean, seriously, went straight to the guns. It's the guns' fault. Well, I don't know, Mom. If you were to take one of your pistols and put it in the middle of the driveway, other than it getting stolen, what do you think would happen after 40 minutes? The gun
very likely to get pretty hot out in the sun.
Right, but what I'm getting at also is that it wouldn't shoot anybody. The gun doesn't do anything. The gun is nothing more than a tool. That's what a gun is. We call it a weapon by definition. It is a tool. It's a tool used by soldiers to fight wars and fight battles. It is a tool of law enforcement to protect themselves and protect people around them. It is a tool of hunters to hunt game for sustenance and for food. It is a tool for competitive shooters to earn a living being competitive shooters. But it's not the problem here. The problem here is what the problem is that this kid regretted everything. This kid had on his guns very anti-Trump, very anti-Christian, very anti-Jewish notes right on the gun, in probably in a form of permanent marker. But
probably
the leftists and their whole ilk would have you think that he was not the problem, that the gun was the problem. And you know what? I'm going to throw this also out at all those people who are leftists and are useful idiots. You might not like to hear this, and we're going to go to break in a second. You might not like to hear this, but don't come talking to me and playing the virtue signaling crap with me about I must not care about human life because I care about the Second Amendment. Here's the news flash. You also probably support the right for a woman to have an abortion after having premarital chosen sex. Discretionary. You probably also have no problem separating families during the COVID crap. When grandma and grandpa were locked away in a home and we're not even allowed to see them. So don't talk to me with the virtue signaling crap about if I support guns, I must not support. I must not care about children's lives, because we both know that's a bunch of garbage. All right, on to the next break.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Did you know veterans enrolled in VA healthcare can use over 4,000 urgent care locations across the country to treat non-life-threatening conditions? It's easy and free. Just show your Veteran Health ID card. Get the best care for veterans. Sign up at va.gov or visit your nearest VA medical center.
All right, we're back.
Well, here's how London has discovered, since they got rid of all of their guns over there in good old Britain, that guess what? Now they just walk down the street and shove a knife in your back.
Right.
Because it's the knife's fault.
Yeah, and now they're trying to say we need to get rid of knives. Let's put a pin in this one. If you're mentally deranged, you're going to find a way to hurt people, no matter what ban is out there. Is that a good
true.
pin?
That answers that. There.
That's a good pin, right? What else do we want to talk about? Let's talk about President Trump.
Let me throw something in here. We don't talk enough about Colorado's situation right now with the communists that we have running Colorado. And what you really need to do is start looking. This is for those people who happen to be watching and are thinking of Colorado or maybe live here. See if you can get on and watch at least some of the Colorado Red or some of the actual stuff that's coming out of the legislature, because it's all bad to the bone. And what they're doing with the wolves and what the wolves are doing to the ranchers is a crime. And if you don't believe me, watch some of the stuff that I've seen on what the wolves are doing to the cattle. They only eat part of it and leave the rest of the cow alive and walk off and kill another calf and leave that one alive. So, hey, all you wolf lovers, have at it, baby. There you go.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because unfortunately my wife is supported bringing the wolves back. It's a slippery slope. There has to be some semblance of once again, there's got to be some balance in our politics. But because, and you know, I don't think that the wolves should have been reintroduced. They are doing exactly what they were born to do. And yes, they will kill one and move on. They're pack hunters, but once the hunt is over, there isn't a lot of interest with them. They're not like lions that will eat to the carcass. And what they leave behind for hyenas and other things. This is just one example. You don't hear about mountain lions. The reason the mountain lions pick the targets that they pick and pick the prey they pick is so that they can eat the whole damn prey. That's why they go after smaller prey, and I'm sure they go after larger prey. I'm full disclosure, I am by no means an expert on any of this. I prefer to do research on American history and things like that. That's me. That said, it doesn't take a genius to see just how bad of an idea this was. The the environmental protection people, who are all also leftists and for the most part communist in their own rights, will tell you, oh, the farmers should just turn away. No, let me explain something to you. Cows are a form of sustenance. Farmers ensure that that sustenance gets properly distributed. And we're not going to go into the Chinese and them owning meat packing. We're not going to, that's not what this is about. This is about a farmer has a right to protect his property, which is that cattle. If I were a farmer, I would roll to the Supreme Court of the United States and say, the state of Colorado is depriving me of my right to earn a living, because that's what they're doing. Because it's not just that they reintroduced the wolves. They're also protecting those wolves from the cattle, the ranchers, for the ranchers to be able to go after the wolves. If I were the ranchers, I'd go after the wolves anyway, and I would deal with the consequences later.
It's an unfortunate situation, but that's only a part of what's going on with the state. The rest of it is equally bad, but you need to pay attention to what they're trying to pass through the legislature. That's all I'm saying.
Here's the thing, and I've heard Republicans on the floor fight their asses off, and I give them full credo for getting on the floor and fighting as hard as they can. And I hate saying it like this, but this is the truth. It's hard to fight when you already know that you don't have the numbers to actually make your voice heard.
Right.
And that's what's sad about our state. And look, we're not the only one. Illinois is the same way. California is the same way. Oregon's the same way. Washington State's the same way. Michigan is the same. I don't know. Michigan seems to have balanced itself out. Minnesota's the same way. You have a group of straight up batshit crazy individuals who have a very specific agenda, and that is, as far as I'm concerned, to destroy our country, to destroy the values of our country, to destroy the history of our country, to perverse the history of our country, which is horrible. And how do you stop it? Well, I mean, I made a promise to my wife, and it's very hard for me to know that I can't get into politics the way I want to get into politics. I want to run for city council. I want to engage that way. So what I do is I promote the people that I see, that I vet, that match my my viewpoints and match my values. And honestly, the state of Colorado has got straight up, next to California, it's the worst. It is in the state legislature. It is so dominated by communists, godless communists, and socialists, and any kind of ish that you can get your damn heads wrapped around. When I hear someone go, "Oh, I'm Democrat," are you Democrat or are you socialist? Because right now they're intertwined. Democrat, socialism, and communism are all kind of intertwined at this point in time. I mean, we can go right to New York. The guy leading, I think that the head of the Guardian Angels is finally gained some headway to represent a legitimate threat to that moron Mamdani. But he is a straight up, he calls himself a Democrat socialist. You cannot be a Democrat and a socialist. You can't. I'm going to say that again. You cannot be a Democrat and a socialist, and you definitely cannot call yourself a Democrat socialist, because Democrats and socialists, because a democratic society is not compatible with a socialist communist society. They're not compatible, and I will support that with the reasoning behind it. A Democrat believes in majority rules. A socialist believes that the state is the only thing that matters. The Democrat, while it becomes more of a mob mentality, it's still about majority rules, and it's not about the state. It tends to turn socialist because it makes sense to then turn to the state, where everything becomes dependent upon the state. But a Democrat, especially a Democrat that's a moderate, we can call them the Kennedy Democrats, because that's who I equate them as, is the Kennedy Democrats. They are not compatible with socialism, and I don't care. Communism and socialism are one and the same. They are only separated by the tiniest degree of separation. So, Mom, I'd like to know what you like, what your opinion is on what I just said.
I think you're right, except for one thing. You can call it anything you want. You can call them Democrat. They can call themselves whatever they want. They have the freedom of right to do that. That doesn't mean that it means what we think it means. It only means that that's the buzzword that they're using today.
Oh yeah, well, let's talk about those buzzwords. What other buzzwords are they using? They're using the threat to democracy. That's a big one that they like to use. What's the other ones that they like to use? Existential threat to democracy is another one of their little monkey catchphrases. What else do they like to use, Mom? What's one of their other ones?
They don't understand what democracy. Well, they maybe do understand.
We're talking
what
about
democracy is.
But Mom,
because we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic.
Okay, but you're not following where I'm going with this. They use catchphrases that are easy to remember because the people who follow them don't have the capacity to think for themselves. The no kings, no kings, no kings. That is a catchphrase that they have thrown out there. Let me see what else. What's some of the other ones that they're liking to use? Fascism. We don't want fascism. We're anti-fascists. What else, Mom? Come on, you got to help me out because honestly, I only pay attention to them when they get thrown in my face.
Honestly, I don't probably try to remember those.
But it is important to pay attention to them because it's easy to counter them. When someone says no kings, my response is we don't have a king. And when they try to equate Donald Trump to a king, I very calmly respond to them with, he is a duly elected president. I don't see a crown on his head. And he himself doesn't consider himself a king. For those of you watching, do a little bit of research. President Trump, as much as you might not like him, is the most constitutionally driven president that we've had since Reagan, and he's more constitutionally driven and guided than Reagan, and that is a fact. That is a fact. The tariff issue, the Court of Appeals that said he couldn't have certain tariffs, they aren't paying attention to the fact that those tariffs are being used as negotiating tools, and he did not make them permanent. Now, a permanent tariff that is not a part of a trade negotiation, which is why the other ones are considered constitutional. A tariff that is a permanent tariff has to be approved by Congress. That means that the president can implement it, but then it has to go through the House and go through the Senate for ratification. That is a fact. President Trump, under no circumstances, ever said these are permanent tariffs. He said these are tariffs from this point in time to this point in time. During those time, that point in time, we will negotiate with that nation, and we will come up with an agreement with that nation. Well, that's constitutional, and he has the authority and the right to do that. Just like he has the right and the authority to also send National Guards troops to places that he sees are a threat to the safety and well-being of the citizens, because his ultimate responsibility is the health and the safety and the security of the American citizen.
And that has happened in more than once in the history of the United States also.
Right. Which
this is not a new thing.
Which once again proves me right when I say it's not the what, it's the who. All right, I'm going to try to find this next commercial. It's only going to be about 30 seconds.
What happened to you? Ruben, I'm in a situation here. We have to leave now. Well, no, can we stay a couple more minutes? But dude, no, this is serious. I just sharted. I don't know what that means. I tried to fart and a little shit came out. I just sharted. And let's go.
There's a car behind us.
Oh, I love these. Commercials are awesome. Our little breaks have got to be funny. All right, we are into the home stretch. And then, like I said, I will be getting back into my military uniform, and I'll be going with my mom to Elizabeth, and then Parker, and then from Parker to Littleton, and then back home. What am I doing tomorrow on this Labor Day weekend? Well, I'm not resting. Most people rest. I do stuff. I am actually going to be getting up early in the morning and driving to Mount Evans and performing on top of that 14er, which my mom and I have done once. And then I'm going to go from Mount Evans to Pikes Peak, and I'm going to play on top of Pikes Peak. 3 songs each. National Anthem, God Bless America, America the Beautiful. But I will then be able to say that I am one of the few people who has performed music on top of 2 14ers in one day. That's the plan for tomorrow, is to do something that nobody else has done.
If you can get up there.
I haven't seen any notifications that they're closed. So we'll here's what we'll do. We'll see what we see. This is kind of what it boils down to. So.
Whatever.
So let's see. Let's talk about school shootings. Let's not talk about the trans ideology, because we just beat that dead horse. But let's talk about school shootings. What is the easiest way to prevent school shootings? Mom, what would you say is the easiest way to prevent school shootings?
Let me raise my hand. I can tell you, you need to have armed guards. You need to have people there with guns, willing to use them whenever somebody shows up. Even this last shooter said, I picked something that didn't have anybody there with a gun. Gee,
he was
what
the only
a
one,
surprise.
Mom. He wasn't the only one that said that. The one before him, the one in Knoxville, also in his manifesto, or her manifesto, I think she was a female pretending to be a guy. She literally in her manifesto said, I picked the least protected targets. So let's kind of talk about that. How many? Okay, we got 39 people that are watching, and here's my question: are all 39 of you veterans? If you are veterans, that means that you have had, unless things are different, you have had at least a little firearms training. It isn't that much of a stretch to find veterans out there who want to spend some time that is fulfilling and will benefit the community. It would be nothing to train them, to arm them, and to put them, and they don't have to be in the school. They can be directly outside the school. They can patrol as long as they're patrolling on a random basis. But if you want to deter, why do bank robbers take months to plan? And what's the first target that a bank robber goes after? They go after the armed freaking guard. Why is it that it is so hard to understand that the easiest way to defend anything is through an armed presence? I mean, Mom, I don't know. These congressmen and these senators, they do have armed security, don't they?
Well, most of them.
Okay,
Even
so
old
why-
Maxine Waters does.
So why is it good for them, but it's not good for children? Oh, wait, I got the answer, Mom. Mom, I got it. Because the children dying fit the anti-gun narrative.
Right.
Children being killed do not fit the children being killed narrative. It fits the anti-gun narrative. That's so glad we got that cleared up. The next time someone tells me, okay, here's a funny story. One of my coworkers was looking at one of my energy drinks, and it is a replica of a shotgun shell. And she was like, "That's disgusting." I'm like, "No, that's cool as hell." But she was coming from a position of, I'm an anti-gun person. And my response was, "No, this is awesome. It's impossible to be a shotgun shell. It's too damn big. But who gives a crap? I would feel better and more safe and more secure in my place of business if there was an armed personnel at the door. I would feel more safe. I would feel more secure. And hey, at least Cherry Creek has got Aurora Police Department and has got police that are armed and trained cops at their high schools. At least there's that. But it should be nationwide.
I don't know if you remember a few years back, that church, I think it was a church in Colorado Springs, where the one lady had a gun on her, and she took out the guy that was going to shoot up the church.
Right. And that leads to, I was able to find it years ago. It was a ratio, and it was actually two ratios, is based on a simple concept, 18-2. And basically what that concept was if an active shooter is shooting up a place where there is nobody to confront them, legitimately confront them, the body count, if you have to wait for the police to arrive, is averaged at 18. 18. The body count, if that same active shooter is confronted by a good guy or a good girl with a gun, drops to 2. That's an average. That isn't like an outlier. This shooting in Minneapolis, the mere fact that more people didn't die, that was an outlier. And that was also because that shooter wasn't aiming. That shooter was spraying and hope that they hit what they were shooting at. Trust me, if as heavily armed as that individual was, if they had taken their time and just started to shoot, the body count would have been significantly higher. As it were, there were a lot of kids that were hurt. Something that I found out was that school had a buddy system where the middle schoolers were paired with the younger ones, and the middle schoolers' responsibility was, in case a situation like this happened, they were to shove their younger counterparts under the pews. That's why you had so many middle schoolers with injuries, because they were exposed for longer periods of time. Hey, you're mitigating a threat is what you're doing. But to eliminate that threat, you don't eliminate guns. Eliminating guns doesn't eliminate the threat, because a bad guy with a gun is going to be a bad guy with a gun no matter what the law is. And I think that is something that literally needs to be taken into account when people spew the garbage of gun control out there. In all honesty, gun control is teaching people the value of human life and teaching skill sets around the firearms, which gives them a knowledge base. That was one thing I've always complimented my mom on this. My mom and my dad made it abundantly clear to both of us. If you are going to point it at somebody, you better be prepared to use it. And you should always treat them as if they're loaded. And you would never point them at anybody for anything other than self-defense. Those are life.
Those are
life
NRA
lessons.
NRA rules. Don't point it at something that you're not going to shoot.
Correct.
Every gun is loaded, whether you unloaded it or not. Every gun
Correct.
is loaded. There's a third one, whatever it is. In a while.
So at the end of the day, if you want to prevent these shootings, you don't prevent shootings. I hate to tell people this. You do not prevent shootings when you try to take guns away from the people that are you just can't. Okay? Bad people are going to do bad things whether they have guns or not. I watched a video on Instagram that was utterly disgusting. It was a white kid being bullied by a much bigger black kid. And the reason that it doesn't go into the media is because apparently it's okay for black people to bully white people. My response to that is, if you're going to play and you're going to dance with me, yeah, you're probably not walking away. You'll probably go to the hospital with a broken leg, because that's how I defend myself. I take away your ability to walk. That's just how I do it. It's because that keeps me the most safe that it can. But until we stop catering to racial excuses, is that
the worst.
what to call it? It's okay
It's
because they're
called,
black.
That's the one that's the very worst that the communist Democrats are pushing, is
Correct.
the racial guilt on white people.
Right.
Get over it.
Oh, and newsflash, I don't feel guilty
Newsflash.
in any way, shape, or
I
form.
have nice friends across the street who happen to be black. I
Right.
don't care that they're black. They're nice
Right.
friends.
Most people, and what's sad about that is that most people don't care if a person is black or white. It's assholes that care that it's a black or white thing. Assholes make it a black and white thing, not normal everyday people. Why? Because we're normal everyday people. Normal
and I
everyday
don't
people
have
don't do things like that.
and I don't have any white guilt either. So
I don't. You
There
know,
you
I
go.
was born this way. That's what I tell people. I was born this way. You're telling me to be ashamed about the way I was born. I didn't have a choice in the way I was born. Mom, can I ask you a
not
question?
really.
Why didn't you decide? Why didn't you decide to have me black?
I don't know. Dana wanted to be Mexican,
apparently
so
because
there you go.
I had any control over that too. Well, I'm not. The point I'm making is, it's not something that white people are going to have white children. The only mixed race could go one way or another, and still there's a lot of contingencies scientifically as to how a child that is of mixed race is going to come out. I mean, there's trillions of contingencies to that.
You got kind of a whole bunch of DNA running around.
A whole bunch of.
There's no telling what's going to happen, what's going to show up. Look at the fact that you really do have red hair, or you used to.
Oh no,
and it was very curly.
It's just gone. Yeah, I mean, I wore an afro for what, a month? Thanks to Sandy Padbury. Thanks to Sandy Padbury. And then I got tired of that shit, so I bounced off of it. All right, Mom, it has been an absolute pleasure working only with you.
I bet.
Kind of reminds us of our conversations in your living room.
Uh-huh.
Only this is with an agenda. This is with a set agenda. This is what we do. All right. I want to make sure that I thank once again James Patrick. Thank you very much for your comment. I would hope that you come at it with less of a biased, irrational position next week when we do this again next week. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America. And at some point, there will be videos on my website of the work that I've been doing over this weekend.
God bless everybody. Have a great Labor Day weekend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.